So in the last 3 days, we've been talking about how the Jewish people are the first fruits of God. And because they're the first fruits of God, it shows that, like the first fruits that we bring to the Holy Temple, that the place of the Jew is really the Holy Temple, or even more exactly, to make the whole world into a Holy Temple. And even the physical things, like the fruits. And so everything that a Jew uses or touches, or he has the potential to bring this into the Holy Temple, the whole entire world. And this is talking about every single Jew. Even Jews that are very far away from Judaism. And even Jews that are just born. Right? They're just babies. They can't know anything. Nevertheless, there they are. They're Jews. Kolomer, in other words, Shebavodat Hashem, that when we serve the Creator, the Poel, actually, Yeshnam Shnei Ofanim, there's 2 ways to serve the Creator. I mean, we can divide it up into a lot of different ways, but this is 2 ways of dividing up service of God. Al derech haragil, a normal way, namely a Jew that does Torah and the commandments. There is an attachment of the Jews and God by means of the Torah. Without the Torah, you don't know what to do. Lochi, and therefore Talmud Torah connected kulam. Therefore, it says learning the Torah is as important as all of the other commandments. Most important commandment is learning the Torah. Therefore, there's an obligation on every single Jew to learn the Torah every single moment. Every single free moment, a Jew is supposed to be learning the Torah. But, Kavan since, Shebazeh Toloi, that in this depends the whole existence of every Jew and of the world. So the essence of the Jew is the Torah. That's the only way he can be attached to the creator of the universe. Without the Torah, it is just basically chaos, egotism. When it's talking about a person, even though it's not his fault, that he has no revealed connection to the Torah, doesn't even know that there is such a thing. Nevertheless, by him, what he has in a revealed way, if you want to call it that, is that he's the first fruits of God. That's the only connection he's got with God. His connection that he's first fruits. The other Jew is also the first fruits of God. Every Jew is. But the other Jew, he's mostly concerned with the Torah. And here, Bikurim, Shebishvilo, that for him, everything was created. Adarabah, Zeh Gufa, Mevio told the Torah. This brings him to Torah. It's almost like a person, that they say, I don't know if this is true, but they say that the Russians, so the Cossacks, they were very bloodthirsty, ruthless people. But it was very difficult for them to kill children. Not like the Germans. The Germans killing a child, no problem. Right? No problem. But it says the Cossacks, in general, the Russians are more sort of, how do you say, emotional sort of. There's more. So the Cossacks, it was hard for them to kill a child. Why? Because a child, all he has is just life. He's just life. He's just, pure life. But one second, an older person is also just alive. But you don't see so much the life. You see the person's personality. Right? The personality sort of covers over. The same thing is the Torah. The Torah sometimes can cover over our essential connection with God. It doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that he's not, developing it. But still, the fact of the matter is it covers it over. It covers over this essential identity of what a Jew is. So that's what he's saying. A Jew, that he can learn Torah, so that's a very wonderful thing. But it's some way, the thing that's being put into the background is the fact that he's the first fruits of God. And learning the Torah shows that he's an intelligent person, that God chose him to give the Torah to. But just his very existence shows that he is the first fruits of God. This is only expressed by a Jew that doesn't do Torah or doesn't do commandments at all. All he has, his only connection with God is, I'm a Jew. I'm a pure Jew. The Yeshlam, we can say, in a general, this thing is this general fact of the first fruits, namely the revelation of just the preciousness of just a Jew in this physical world, without any qualifications, just the fact that he's a Jew. Ad l'mayla sam shekadmu l'Torah, because the Jews are even before the Torah, higher than the Torah. Like we see even a Jew that doesn't have any connection to the Torah, he's a Jew. He expresses something that's even, in a way, more precious than the Torah. This mitpateh gam b'mikra b'chorin. This we can see in the sentences that he said. Remember, we learned this on Sunday. These few sentences, what is it, 7, 8 sentences that he says, thanking God and praising God for taking us out of Egypt and giving us the land of Israel and giving us the Holy Temple. This whole paragraph that he says when he brings the first fruits, that you should announce and say, Lifnei Hashem, in front of God, Arami Oved Avi, that there was an Arami, Lavan wanted to destroy Yaakov, and that we've destroyed the Jewish people, Lavan, and we all Jews, we went down to Egypt, and God took us out of Egypt, and God gave us this beautiful land, and he gave us the Holy Temple. As Sha'allah, that on it, this Eurytus going down to Yaakov and going out of Egypt, and etc. These She'elu, that these things, the going down of Yaakov, Jacob to Egypt, going out of Egypt, going to the Holy Land of Israel, these are general things which are connected to all the Jewish people for all of the generations. God took us out of Egypt. He's talking about the most anti-Jewish Jew you could possibly imagine, and he's talking about the biggest, holiest Jew you can possibly imagine. This is relevant to all Jews just because they're Jews. God took us all out of Egypt. Tochana Kriya, that's what the main thing is. Shalim wrote that even though that this whole paragraph that we say when we bring the first fruits, even though that Arami Oved Avi, that there was Lavan wanted to destroy Yaakov, and Yaakov is found by Lavan, and Lavan wanted to destroy everything when he ran after Yaakov, and then after that, and other people also came to destroy us in the course of time. There was Amalek, there was this. We went down to Egypt, we lived there, and we were very, very few, just 70 souls went down. This is all the things that we say in this paragraph. All of this is all before the giving of the Torah. Not only did Lavan and Paro and everything, did they not succeed, and Amalek, it says, attacked the Paro, and there was the what was it, with Bilam, and he tried the Moab, and they all tried to attack the Jews. Not only did they not destroy the Jews, but exactly the opposite. That in Egypt, even in the worst situation, we became a great nation. Whether in Kamos, whether we're talking about in quantity or in quality. This began with Yaakov. This is the whole paragraph that we say when we bring the first fruits to the Holy Temple. Look in the beginning of this week's Torah portion. This begins also in the time of Jacob, that Jacob, it says that Yaakov, his mitato shlema, that all of his offspring were all complete, they were all holy. Until Kashiraya Yaakov, Chashash Lazad, that Yaakov even worried, maybe it's too good. And his children said that maybe everything is too good. Maybe some of my children are worshiping idols. I mean, all my 12 children, they're all perfect. And his children, he said, maybe you're worshiping idols. Maybe one of you, on Yaakov's deathbed. And his children replied to him, Shema Yisrael, listen Yisrael. Yisrael is their father's name. Yaakov is called Yisrael. Hashem Elokeinu, God is our God. God is only one. Kashem, just like there is only in your heart. Yaakov, the sons of Yaakov, said to him, just like all you only believe in one God, also there's only in our heart only one God. At that time, Yaakov opened up his mouth and he said, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto L'olam Voed. Blessed is the name of the glory of God's kingship forever and ever. That even when Yaakov was in Egypt and he died in Egypt, nevertheless, Yaakov was happy. She'ein b'libeinu ela echad. Yaakov's children said to him, oh, we still believe in the oneness of God, the only one God. We don't believe in any people, any of this. This is the true oneness of God. Lifnei Hashem Elokecha. In front of God, your God. This is what we announce when we bring these first fruits. So if you're comparing the Jewish people to the first fruits, so this paragraph that we say when we bring these first fruits to the Holy Temple, this explains it. It announces it. Also afterwards, it says, "V'yoreu otanu ha'Mitzrim." It's what do we say in this paragraph? The Rebbe is continuing. It says in the paragraph that the Egyptians, they tortured us. Egyptian is also the Mitzrayim is also the language of Meitzarim v'Gevulim, limitations and false boundaries of the world. Hari Yotzienu Hashem Mitzrayim. God took us out of Egypt with a powerful hand and a stretched out arm. Ubamora Gadol, with great fear and with all sorts of signs and miracles. Until God took us to this place and he gave us this land, a land that is flowing with milk and honey, that God chose the Jewish people as his first fruits for the whole world. So that's what we're saying. Even though that the Jewish people started off on a very, very sour note, that Lavan wanted to destroy us automatically. Lavan was Yaakov's father-in-law. He wanted to destroy us totally. And after that, we went to Egypt, and they wanted to destroy us totally. And after that, we went to the desert, and God protected us. And now here we are. We are the first fruits for the whole world to show us that God really is good, despite all the terrible things we went through. But nevertheless, God is good. Here we are. Therefore, the Jewish people, because God is so good to us, therefore we give measure for measure. Reshit Pri Adama, we bring the first fruits that God gave us, and we are putting them in front of God in the Holy Temple. This whole thing reveals how the Jewish people, even before the Torah was given, even before they received a revealed connection to the Torah, nevertheless, the Jewish people, they are the first fruits of God. The essence of Jews, even if a Jew doesn't connect to the Torah at all. So it was when the Jews were in Egypt. It was before the Torah was given. The Jewish people, they are the first fruits. They are before everything. They're even higher than the Torah. This is expressed by the fact of Vayehi Sham Goy Gadol Atzum V'Rov, that even in Egypt, when they were trying to torture us and trying to limit us and trying to destroy us, nevertheless, that's where we became tremendously abundant and fruitful. And afterwards, God took us out of Egypt with a powerful hand. I mean, you can say, hey, listen, if we were so abundant and we were so fruitful, why didn't we just stay there? You know, and especially after God made all these plagues and he decimated Egypt, so we should have stayed there for sure. You know, then we were a great multitude, and we could have ruled over. We could have made them our servants. That would have been bad. Hey, Egyptian, remember how I shined your shoes? Well, now you shine my shoes. In fact, even more, give me your shoes. You go barefooted, and now your shoes are my shoes. Your house is now mine. You work in the fields now for Dan. That would have been better, right? He said no, because God doesn't want a nation of leaders and bosses. He wants a nation of servants, that we should be grateful to him and only to him. And that we're his people. The reason we were abundant in Egypt was because God wanted it that way. The reason that we survived all these difficulties and that we flourished despite them, or even perhaps because of them, is because that's what God wanted. That's the only reason. But what God gave us free will. We're in the world, and God says you can be grateful or not be grateful. whatever you want. God took us out of Egypt with an outstretched arm. That's what's so bad about idolatry. That's what's so bad about these other religions, especially, God forbid, even to say the word, Christianity. It's saying that you got nothing to be thankful for. What are you being thankful? God took you out of Egypt. Big deal. Forget the whole past. Forget all the commandments. Forget, right? I mean, God is creating you. Give thanks only to God. What are you giving thanks to? A person, to a thing? What are you praying to? A statue for this? The whole thing makes it's totally insane. And to say that the Torah supports us is even worse. So it says that's the whole idea that God took us out with an outstretched arm, with great signs and miracles, until he brought us into this place, to the holy temple, the holy land. And he gave us a land flowing with milk and honey. According to this, now it's really understandable, the law in Bikurim is enjoyable. This interesting law about first fruits, Bikurim ta'anim kli, that the first fruits, you have to bring them in a basket. You can choose whatever basket you want. There's not a special basket. There's no special specifications like tefillin or something like that, or the holy temple, everything is exact. No, but you have to bring it in a vessel. And it's supposed to be a nice vessel. Like it says, v'samto betene. You have to you can't just bring, a nice pomegranate in a bag or something like that, a whole bundle of grapes, carry it on your shoulder. That's nice. No, you have to put it in a basket. The law is haboim b'kli matechet. It says the law is that if you bring these in a metal vessel, kaminag hashirin, like the rich people, that they brought their bikurim in a vessel of silver or of gold. So the Kohen takes the bikurim and he gives the vessel back. But if you bring the bikurim in a vessel, b'kli arava, in a vessel of whatever is like a wicker basket or something, b'chalaf, something impermanent, then the bikurim and the basket all belong to the Kohen. The Kohen takes the whole thing himself, right? Takes the whole with the basket together. What does this mean? Shleimus agili, the malas, and the real complete revelation of the greatness and the highness, the holiness of the Jews, and that the Jews are called God's first fruits, is precisely in this, that as they are in their vessel, a soul in a body, the body is the vessel, and the Jewish people are limited in this world. Even there might be even what's called poor vessels, wicker basket. So what does it mean, poor? It physically means that he doesn't have any money, but the real poverty is in awareness of God. A person that's not aware of the Creator, he's called poor. As long as there is this nikar sham ech she'em bakurim, no matter what type of a Jew, even the Jew that's very poor in his connection to God, all he has is this wicker basket, can't find anything else. It's the best he can do. Nevertheless, he is the first fruits. Exactly, even more. The poor ones, habikurim tonim kli, those that they all come in front of God, is only by means of the vessel. The body is the main thing, until even more. A vessel that's made from the simplest things, the simplest Jews, that they haven't got the Torah, they haven't got the commandments, the simplest things. All he has is physical things from this world, very poor. Nevertheless, he is called, the vessel unites with the first fruits in a way that the Bikurim and the Salim, that the first fruits and the basket belongs to the Kohanim. That also the vessel itself goes in front of God. In other words, a simple Jew, he doesn't know Torah, he doesn't know the commandments, all he knows is that he's a Jew. You get a lot of people like this nowadays in Russia. In Russia, it's already been 70 years, whatever, that they tried in every possible way to destroy Judaism. And they almost succeeded in Russia. And they closed the schools, they made They educated everybody. They closed the synagogues. They educated everybody that that the Judaism is foolish, the Torah is foolish, it's only for old people, and etc. And it really, had a tremendous success in wiping out Jewish identity from the Russians simply from ignorance. They just didn't know. They didn't know. But as soon as a lot of these Russian Jews, they hear, they see there's something Jewish, they know that they were Jewish, that the grandfather was Jewish, they just hear it. Suddenly they wake up. It's the most amazing thing. Of course, not all of them and immediately, but there's a sufficient number that people just suddenly wake up to their Judaism. But that's all they've got is this Jewish identity. They don't have any Torah, they don't have any commandments, they don't have any of the all they have is a Jewish body, simplest vessel of all. It says this in some ways is the highest, the holiest. This remains by the Kohen. I've seen there are Russian Jews that they don't know anything. They just know they're Jewish and they want to make a circumcision. They want to make a bris. 50 years old, 60 years old, right? 70 years old. They want to make a circumcision is not a simple operation. I know they do it with a local anesthetic, but even afterwards, when the anesthetic wears off, it's very painful. Even one fellow, I was very friendly. I still am with a fellow. They even used to do it in my house. I have an upper floor in the house, and that was all given to their sort of little hospital, whatever. And people used to come and make brisses over there. It was really quite amazing. And there was one fellow that the doctor said, listen, it's dangerous to make this. He said, I'd rather die a Jew than live as a non-Jew. In other words, the sign of the foreskin and removing the foreskin, that's the only Jewish thing he had. The only difference to him between a Jew and a non-Jew, he didn't learn Torah, he hadn't done the commandments, he didn't know anything. The only sign that he had was a Jew was that he would remove his foreskin. He says, So it says, in one way, those people, they're really close to Hashem. That even their body, that the vessel also remains by the Kohen. And even more, by means of this, it causes the samta b'tena. You put it in a tena. Tena are the first letters, the initials. Tamim, nekudot, otiot. Tamim, nekudot, otiot. What does this mean? The Torah is letters, right? Letters. It's letters, exact letters. The Torah is letters, the written Torah. That's what's called the written Torah. If one letter is missing from the Torah, then the Torah is disqualified, according to almost all opinions. The Torah is disqualified. The whole entire scroll is that there's one opinion that says only that book of the Torah, but that's not officially. The one letter is missing, then the Torah is disqualified. But the fact is that there's letters, that's the otiot, but there's also how you pronounce the letters. That's called the nekudot. Makes a big difference, right? If you pronounce the Aleph, Beit, Lamed, Oval, it means but. If you say Avel, same letters, Avel means someone that's in mourning, right? A lot of words, right? If you punctuate them differently, and of course in the Torah scroll itself is not written any punctuation. This is just handed down from generation to generation, what the punctuation is, which would change. I mean, if you don't know what the punctuation, you could just do whatever you want to. That changes the whole Torah tremendously. So it says, so there are letters, the Torah is letters, vowels, and also tamim, how you read the Torah. What's called the cantillation. In Yiddish, they call it the trop. Vayom Hashem Moshe, the how it's read. That's called the ta'amim. So the written Torah is ta'amim, that's the cantillation. Nakuda is the pronunciation, and otiot and letters. Shetei shlemut the Torah. Tena means you put this first fruits, the fact that you have a Jewish soul. The ideal is to put it into the Torah. And this makes the Torah complete. Nosaf, in addition to the letters and the punctuation of the Torah, there's also the Tamia Torah. There's also the cantillation of the Torah. The word Tamia Torah means the way it's sung, but it also means the reasons for the Torah. The Tam also means to understand the reason. Both in V'samta at the Bikurim, that you put these first fruits in a settled way, that the Yehudi is munach, that a Jew is settled in his innerness in the tamim nekudat v'otiot, in the letters of the Torah. So in other words, a Jew, even without the Torah, is still a Jew in a way that's the most precious. But that's not the purpose of the whole thing. You can't remain that way. The purpose is the Jew has to put this purity and this holiness into the Torah and unify with the Torah. And then he has to put the Torah into the world. According to what we said before, now we can understand the connection between the mitzvah of the Bikurim with the connection when it says the Brit. Remember we said that this Torah portion talks about the covenant, the agreement, the Brit that God made with the Jewish people on doing all the Torah and the commandments. We're going to learn about that today at 3 o'clock. The first fruits indicates the whole uniqueness of Torah and the commandments. Bikurim, first fruits, shows the unique excellence, unique, how do you say, preciousness of the Jews, even before the Torah. This is just the beginning and the foundation of the whole Torah mitzvahs, that the Jews are different and that the Jews are connected with God and that the Jews have this job of revealing God in the world. Only they can do it. Showing how precious the world is. And God made a kritat brit, an infinite, unchanging agreement, covenant, in Bnei Yisrael with all the Jews, shema'acheret, that unites, God united himself with the Jewish people. Ke'acheret shnei chalkei habrit, like you unite two things that they make a covenant together. What's it called? A blood covenant, a blood agreement, whatever. But often gilui, in a revealed way, also below. And this expresses in a revealed way that by means of this, the Jewish people will actually activate and keep this covenant. What does it mean, keep the covenant? We can't say, listen, I'm a Jew, God made a covenant with me, so he's going to love me no matter what I do. So, I can do what I want. He says, no, you have to activate this connection. The Jewish people accept on themselves, and they're willing to do the Torah and its commandments, the Torah and the commandments of God. That's one of the conditions of this agreement. In other words, God says, listen, I'm going to love you no matter what. But the reason I'm making this covenant is that you're going to be really connected with me. You don't, how do you say, belittle, don't take lightly this covenant. Don't say, I'm in the covenant with God, so I can do whatever I want to. It says it doesn't work that way. True, God's always going to love you what you do, but if God loves you so much unconditionally and is giving you so much, so maybe you should love him also unconditionally. Okay, good. So if you love him, then you'll do what he wants. He wants you to learn the Torah and do the commandments. And he's already giving you everything. He's giving you life. He's giving this covenant. He's giving you everything. Do the Torah and the commandments unconditionally. So even if the Jews were driven out of their countries, expelled, and there was the inquisitions and the Holocausts and the pogroms and the terrible things happened to the Jewish people, but the Jewish people said, okay, I made this covenant unconditionally with God. You can do what you want to me. I'm not going to leave this covenant. That's what it says. Hayom hazeh, today, God commanded you to do all of these laws and all of these statutes and to do them with all of your heart and all of your soul. Because my whole entire being is only in order to do this good thing, like a soldier. a genuine soldier. They used to have this, it used to be things, they used to have the suffering artist, for the sake of beauty, he's willing to forego all pleasures of the world. He doesn't get a job, because he's just totally devoted to revealing this pleasure, right? This pleasure of art. Or the musician, he's just totally devoted to his music. He just has to have enough money to buy a piano or a violin and a place to play it in. It doesn't care about anything else in the world. That's all he cares about, because it's so beautiful and it's so good. Well, it's the same thing also here. The Jewish people made a covenant with the creator of the whole universe, the source of all good. That's it. So if so, we should be totally devoted with all of our heart and all of our soul. It's just such a wonderful, precious thing. And also we see in a revealed way how it is that Hashem made an agreement with us. He singled us out that we would be his special people, and that he will put you above all of the other nations that he made for splendor. And this is the whole entire, we'll do this tomorrow, God willing. This is the whole, with this we can understand also the connection of Bikurim to what Rashi says, that today God commanded you. It says every day the commandments should be like they were just given today, brand new. How we can make it brand new? By realizing who we are, how much God loves us, as we're going to explain, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do Hayom Yom. Oh, see, here we got Hayom Yom. The Alter Rebbe, he usually read the Torah. When on Shabbos, he would read the Torah. Once it happened to be that he was far away from the city, Liozna, that's where he lived. Lubavitch was only the second Rebbe. He was the one that moved to Lubavitch. But the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, he didn't live in Lubavitch. In the city of there was one Shabbos where he happened to be away from, and his Middle Rebbe, his son, who had not been yet bar mitzvah, he was like 10 years old. He heard it because he was a tremendous genius, but he would hear his father read every week. We talked about this. He heard the Torah reading from someone else, of course, an excellent Torah reader. When he heard the curses, we didn't get to the curses yet, come at 3 o'clock. His anguish at hearing the curses caused him so much heartache that on Yom Kippur, the Alter Rebbe doubted if his son would be able to fast or not, even though he wasn't obligated to fast, but he would take it on himself. When they asked the Rebbe, what were you so sick about? What happened? He said, I heard the curses. But every year you hear your father read this. He said, when my father reads, I don't hear any curses. There's another version of it. It says, all I hear is blessings. Because inside of all these curses, why does God give all these terrible curses to the Jews? Because he cares about them. He loves them. What type of a way to show his love? That we'll understand when Moshiach comes. What was the whole purpose of all this terrible suffering? Until then, there's no way of explaining it. No one can explain it. But nevertheless, when the Alter Rebbe explained, the Alter Rebbe, of course, he was the Moshiach. He was the Moshiach. That the leaders of Chabad, they were the Moshiach of every generation. When the Alter Rebbe read this, it was the Moshiach reading. He was answering all of the troubles, explaining why all these terrible things were just good. I don't know if anybody understood it, but the second Rebbe of Chabad did understand it. Have a good day. God willing, today, 3 o'clock, we are learning. Thanks. Have a good day also, you too. And God bless you all. Happy birthday, Mr. Smith. And we'll see each other at 3 o'clock, God willing. 3 o'clock, Chumash class.